Hi there, welcome to Homekeepers. Come right on in, my friend. Glad to be with you today. And I always like to kind of give a shout out to brand new viewers because I know that we're picking them up every single day and we're so happy for that. And if you just tune in every day, I'm telling you, we have the greatest variety of guests, top notch, that the Lord sends to us on so many subjects that are important to us. So hope this won't be your last time, and to all of you regular people, we love you so much. If you watch all the time, it hasn't been too long ago that you saw a beautiful lady by the name of Candy Gibbs, and I spoke with her about her great work with the CareNet Pregnancy Centers in Texas. She herself had had an abortion, and it's so common in the kingdom of God when something really is awful in your life, how God turns that for good. I've seen that so much in prison ministries, especially. If you've watched regularly, you'll see somebody who's been in prison. When they come out, you know, they get saved probably in prison, then they go back to help all the others. That's the way God's kingdom kind of works, and that's the way it has worked for Candy, and what a marvelous testimony. Well, Candy is with me today, and her son Jake, and what a wonderful young man. And they're going to talk about, she had a little different style in raising her children. I think you're going to find it very interesting. And I can tell you, I wasn't raised like that. But boy, I was very impressed. And so you're going to enjoy meeting Candy and Jake. Stephanie and I are going to make something so good, praline topped apple bread. It's got, you know, fresh apples in it, a lot of other good stuff, and then there's a praline topping. We'll do that for you. But first of all, I got good news. We were out of the turquoise bracelets, couldn't find them anywhere. I made some phone calls, and this wonderful company ordered some more for me, so we've got them. Why not get 2 or 3 of them and keep them on hand? You might want to just give them as gifts to wonderful women in your life. And they're only $20. And you can have one for that if you will just call 1-800-229-0059 if you use a credit card, or Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758 if you want to write to us. But it's a good idea to have a few gifts, you know, in the closet all the time. Why not take advantage of it while we still have them? All right, and here's Stephanie.
Should I tell a little behind the scenes, like you just tripped over this?
Yeah, I just tripped. This girl has no secrets.
Because it's hysterical. She's like talking. She's still talking. She did good.
Yeah. Is there anybody I can sue?
Nope.
I can't sue the Christian Television Network. Well, you keep gifts, don't you?
I do. I have a gift closet.
I do too.
But I also do very personal gifts. So it's not like everyone gets something out of the gift closet, you know. I do very personal gifts, but for surprises or surprise birthday parties for kids or something like that, I have a gift
I'll tell you, it's wonderful when you have, you know, some little kids come to your house, and you got. Remember when you were a real little kid and somebody gave you something? It was
so exciting.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
Okay. So you have a half a cup of butter and you have a half a cup of brown sugar. You're making the praline topping. Okay. I have 2 cups of flour. 2 cups of flour. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a ½ teaspoon each of salt and baking soda. Okay.
There was discussion around here as to whether or not I was capable of doing this, because Stephanie does the heavy lifting.
Well, I have
confidence
in you. It was Susan that said she couldn't do it. No.
Well, there was a lot of concern.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I mixed those 2 together.
Look.
You can always sift those together too. That would be good. So I have sugar, a cup of sugar.
Yeah, we usually use less than that.
But I didn't. Oh, here's my thing. I have
a
cup of sour cream.
Ever since I read that article that you can use a lot less sugar than your recipe calls for, we've done it and it works.
Yes, 2
Makes
eggs.
No difference.
And 3 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to cream all those together. Okay. Plus, I guess I have to spray the pan too, because you're doing that, right? I'm doing all the work.
Okay, well, that's boiling up a little bit. I can do that.
So I'm just creaming the sugar, the eggs, the vanilla, and the sour cream together. And then I have Granny Smith apple that's chopped up.
This is multitasking.
And you're even following the rules. You even went over the sink. Good job. Good
yes,
job.
you finally got that engraved into my...
And then I have pecans, which they're supposed to be a cup, but evidently
we're
didn't
running
have enough.
Yeah, and I put a few walnuts in there, which to me, walnuts goes better. Goes better with apples.
Yeah. Okay, so I cream those together. You keep stirring now because I see bubbles.
Yeah, I wanted it to get good and hot.
Yeah, so now I'm going to mix the wet and the dry.
I think that needs to cook down a little bit. And while we're doing that,
the wet and the dry. And then I'm going to mix in the apples and the nuts. Let me get this out of the way here. This is going to be delicious. Aluminum foil is your friend, okay, for this recipe. So if you put aluminum foil on the pan, because we're going to pour that over the top, okay? And even if you're putting it just on a plate or something, aluminum foil, yes.
Well, yes, and a lot of times when you're baking things,
aluminum foil is your friend, yes.
Yeah, this got to cook down a little bit, so I'm not doing quite as much stirring, but it is boiling good.
But you're doing a good job.
You proud of me?
Susan, she can do it.
Well, Stephanie's been a busy girl making crafts and
doing my choc couture.
Did you ever think you would get into anything like that?
Oh, no, probably not.
Yeah, that's Homekeepers for you. We have such great guests around here and we learn things from them. And
I have apples. Those are Granny Smith.
And when we have a doctor here, you wouldn't believe all the questions we ask them after we go off the air.
Right.
Get a little free advice, you know, or an attorney.
Use them wisely, that's what we say. No? If they're here, why not? No.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to put this in a sprayed loaf pan, which you sprayed over the sink. And you're going to bake it for 55 minutes.
I am so partial to good quick breads.
Oh, this
I
is
guess
because
I'm a tea drinker.
This would be good with a good cup of tea or coffee. And you're going to just tell us how good it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So are you afraid if you take one bite, you'll go berserk?
Yep, I'm not biting.
Got to pray for her for a little self-control, you know. She can't take one bite.
I think this is self-control. I think not taking a bite
We have about 1 minute. This is still pretty runny. Should you put it on?
You go, yes.
I'll let you do it.
Okay, here. Okay.
And I'll do that.
Okay.
I think that should probably cook down a little more, but you know, our audience...
It's still going to be delicious.
Our audience is used to us not getting things finished.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh
my
goodness, yes. Look at this.
It might be too hot to cut, but...
Seriously, that's...
Oh, but we could taste it during the interview and give a report at the end of the show.
And then you just put more pecans over the top. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Okay, we'll try this at the end of the show.
I just want to see how it cuts.
Oh, okay.
Oh my. Look at that. That's beautiful.
I think you want it.
Yes.
It's called Praline Topped Apple Bread. Okay, stay with me. You're going to meet Jake and Candy Gibbs, and I promise you will love them.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, you may receive it by contacting us through social media as listed on the screen. When requesting a copy through the mail, be sure to include a self-addressed stamped envelope. Thank you, and please know we always appreciate hearing from our viewers.
It's my privilege to welcome to Homekeepers Candy and Jake Gibbs.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad to have both of you here. And I wanted to ask you, knowing that when you were much younger you had an abortion and you are working to prevent them now, how did that influence the way you parented your own children, including this handsome young man in medical school, right?
I'm in my undergrad right now, but I'm trying to go to medical school.
Do you want to specialize in anything?
I would like to do either orthopedics or pediatrics, either one. We'll see.
Both of those are great, yeah. But back to the original question, how do you think you would have parented without the history you had personally?
Well, personally, a lot of what went into the decision that I made in high school, which was detrimental, it was centered around keeping a secret. And I think that was the biggest thing that I took into parenting was we aren't going to have secrets. There's not going to be any topic that we aren't comfortable discussing.
It's off limits?
There's nothing off limits, and we talked about stuff from the time our kids were little all the way to today. But it created a very open environment, and our goal was always to find what the Lord's will would be in any situation. And we made lots of mistakes, but we had a very open and honest relationship with our kids.
Yeah, so this is the only way you know.
Yes. Yeah.
To be raised this way. How would you describe it?
Just like my mom was saying, is we were always, our communication was the key. So, like we would never, like what my mom was saying, we didn't keep secrets really. So any issues, we would always have a conversation about it, either me and my dad or both my mom and dad and us. But that was the key, and I live 9 hours away from home now, so we still have to keep that communication like solid to where we talk almost daily. And I think that was the key to like a good relationship, is just like being able to voice both sides.
So this is the only thing you know. And I maybe could guess. God knows I wasn't raised that way.
Oh, yeah, neither was I.
I have 8 great-grandchildren. Let me tell you, sex, well, you never said the word.
No,
period.
no.
Yeah.
So I would think that you are far more liberated in a very healthy way than a lot of the kids you're going to school with.
Oh, I would say so, because just being open about the subject, it's not a bad subject, and people like feel ashamed, I guess, to talk about it, but like the more you talk about it, the better. And I feel like Satan uses curiosity against especially young men, and like the pornography problems that we have today. I feel like Satan uses curiosity more than anything, just because we don't know. And the more conversations that you can have about it and the more comfortable you can get with it, the better I feel like it can be.
That's a great way to put it. I've never really heard it put that way, just that curiosity. But when you take the darkness away,
That's right.
you let the light shine.
Exactly.
Have you read your mother's book?
I have, yes.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I highlight parts and leave it by his bed.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, Candy wrote this book, Rescue, Raising Teens in a Drowning Culture. And we're going to put her website up, and you can get the book from there or any of the other information. Because of a huge mistake she made as a teenager, God has that way of turning things for good, because you've saved a lot of babies.
Oh, thank you.
Now, this book surprised me. I'll have to, let you know, it totally surprised me. I thought that maybe it might be your life story or something, but it's actually a book about raising teens and hopefully teach them like you taught Jake.
Right.
Did you work with teenagers a lot, and that's the reason that you wrote the book?
We work with teenagers a lot. We have mentoring programs in Amarillo, and we serve 22,000 students a month through our mentoring programs.
Now, how does that work?
We're in the public schools, and then we have programs that are done in our offices that are biblically based. So we have lots of interactions with parents and teenagers. And my experience has been that we have spoken so many negative things over this generation of kids.
True.
We say that they're lazy and they're entitled and they're selfish and all of those things. The truth is that this generation of young people wants us to raise the bar, whether that's related to their sexuality or their ability to have an intimate relationship with Christ or their ability to have a healthy relationship with their parents. They want to know that our expectations are high. And then we have to come alongside of them and support them so that they can reach those expectations.
What was your purpose in this book? I would like to say that youth pastors, parents, church leaders, Sunday school teachers ought to have this book because you approach it in a very easy manner. But you kind of centered around water, a drowning culture, and then you have lifeguards.
Yes.
Now, do you want to describe those?
Yes, we wrote this book in partnership with 18 different college kids from across the country. There was a kid that was at Cornell, University of Montana, Texas A&M, just spread out everywhere. And we spent about a year and a half just chatting with them, conversations about what did you feel prepared for when you went to college? What was your biggest struggle in middle school? What did your parents do really well in high school? What about homosexuality, pro-life, and pro-choice? And we asked them everything that we could think of, and they're the lifeguards. Because they have experienced those teen years, and they can kind of look back. That's why we approached the book that way.
Now, Jake, I sent, do you have a girlfriend?
I did not have a girlfriend. No.
Oh, man, I can see the women say, they're going to send you their daughter's phone number. That's what they're going to do.
Go to the website.
No, you know what I was thinking about, the way you were raised, and such a healthy way. When you approached all of these things through Scripture and so yeah, I should think you would be pretty confident when you would date, and that you could just kind of relax because, like you said, the curiosity, the curtains have been lifted.
Yeah, I would say, and I did date some in high school and also my first year of college. I don't have like a steady girlfriend right now, but just having that confidence of knowing like the boundaries that I need to set up and the lifestyle that I want to have, and like the benefits of staying away from that pre-marriage. And I don't know, I can just like see the benefits from the lifeguards and seeing how they've lived their life, and then that's how I want to. That's how I want to live too. So,
what can you tell us about boundaries? I think if you have those set ahead of time, it's a really good idea.
Right. So, like in a dating relationship, I would say boundaries are the most important part of the relationship, besides keeping Christ at the very center. I would say first off, like I said, is keeping Jesus at the very center of this relationship. You should be pursuing Christ more than you should be pursuing that other person. But I think boundaries is something that you set ahead of time and not something that you set while you're on that date with that person. Like you should have a conversation with yourself and know the boundaries that you want, and then you should also have a conversation with that other person to make sure that you're on the same page, so that you're not put in a tempting situation, because it's way easier to think through a tempting situation before you're actually in that situation. So,
I love you. I think it's so great that that's all defined ahead of time, and I don't see when kids stay out so late, the places they go. There's just a lot of common sense that will keep you out of trouble.
Right.
Yes. And you know, I would add this as a mom. The thing that gives me confidence in Jake is that when he was growing up in high school, we helped with some of those boundaries. But in the end, it's up to him. And when his decisions are made based on his relationship with Christ, boy, that makes me feel so much more at ease.
That is, just say that one more time. If it's based on his relationship with Christ. It's not about trying to keep from getting in trouble with us or abide by our rules. These are standards that he has decided on in his intimacy with the Lord. And that takes all the pressure off of us as parents. Did you come to this conclusion when you had your first child, that this is the way your home would be, and you total agreement with your husband that we're going to be an open, honest, we'll answer any question?
Oh, absolutely. And we decided it before we had, when we married, we had our oldest son. He's my stepson, so he was 5 when we married. But from the beginning, we didn't want secrets in our home. And we wanted things to be brought into the light.
How long has the book been out?
The book has been out for a couple of years now, and we're actually working on another book, and it's about the relationship between moms and sons. So I'm excited.
Well, it looks to me like you've fostered a pretty good one. Now, you have a daughter.
I have a daughter.
Okay, what was the difference? The same values and all,
Oh,
but
yes.
how you made those happen.
The main difference was Maddie, my daughter, uses lots more words.
Of course.
And the boys, you know, you have to really work. You have to get outside and get active. Boys will talk more when you're doing something with your hands. Maddie, we can't get her to stop talking so anyone else can say something. But that was really the main difference. The standards are the same. The approach is pretty much the same. But get active with those boys so they'll open up and talk.
Doesn't all this give a certain sense of self in the good? I don't believe in self-esteem myself. My Bible says I'm to esteem the name of the Lord,
That's
not
right.
me.
Amen.
But there is a sense of self-worth. I would think that the way you've raised your children, and I hope there's a lot of people, a lot of parents listening to this, because we tend to repeat the way we were raised, you know.
Right.
But could give them such a confidence that they're not going to be intimidated, and they're not going to be talked into anything.
That's right. That's right. We want parents to not fear that your children will fall to peer pressure. We want you to realize that when they understand who they are in Christ, they are to be the influence. We're not just sitting back trying to avoid this chaos. We want them to walk into chaos and impact it. And that's what we're after. And that's why we raise our kids differently than we were raised. We are raising a generation of overcomers.
I pray so, because the iniquity is unbelievable.
Yes, ma'am.
We have pushing transgenderism.
Oh, yeah.
Kindergarten, first grade, they're telling them, someday you feel like a boy, someday you feel like a girl. On my website, it just came up that a drag queen was teaching some kindergartners. I mean, you're facing the enemy's greatest territory, but just meeting you people tell me for sure that greater is He that's in us than He that's in the world.
That's right.
So I hope somehow your message catches on.
I do too. I do too. And I think it is. I think it is. There are a lot of kids just like Jake who are committed to Christ, and they want to make an impact. And they love people. And that's what it's all about.
Well, also the pro-life,
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
it's winning.
Oh, pro-life, we are on the winning team with that. Praise the Lord.
It has taken a long time. Jake, how do other guys relate to you? Because so many times, you know, they're young and their hormones, and you know, they're kind of on the hunt all the time. What kind of conversations do you have with maybe what, sorry to say, it might be a more normal teen in America?
Right. So for like the majority of people, like I said, well, like you were saying, is just they do have those certain thoughts, and they do like go out and do those certain things. But like what we were saying is, Christians, we're called to be the influencers. Like whoever said that the bad kids get to be the influencers, that's not right. We're supposed to be the influencers. So trying to find other people around you that are on that same mission is a lot easier, because it's a lot easier battle to fight if you have people around you. But just like having conversations with other normal guys, a lot of times it can lead to like an inappropriate conversation. But once you set that standard with people enough times, like, no, I'm not going to talk about these things, or I'm not going to look at these things, whatever it may be, eventually those people are going to stop tempting you because they know what your standard is.
I have a sense that they do believe you.
Yes.
This is my standard, and deep down inside,
Yes.
they admire it and probably like to be like that. I really appreciate you coming on and just being an illustration of what is possible to raise in this culture. We are out of time, but I hope you kind of wander back this way again. And Jake, I just pray you're going to be a great doctor someday.
Well, thank you.
God will use you in that medical field.
And thank you for having us on. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
And you stay with me. I have a couple things to say before we have to say goodbye.
Artheline would like you to keep the following information handy. You may contact Homekeepers by writing to Homekeepers, P.O. Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida 33758, or go to www.rippy.org. Remember, we always enjoy hearing from our viewers, and we thank you for your support.
Well, I promised you I'd give you a report on our recipe, and it is awesome. I took a bite, and I think it's one that you will really enjoy having in your home. So it's called apple praline bread, quick bread, and it was wonderful. Weren't they wonderful? I really enjoyed having Candy and her son Jake, and I couldn't help but think what a total, complete, absolute failure mess that great sexual revolution has been for the United States, indeed for the world. You've got more dead babies because of abortion. You have more diseases. You have more confused children now that they're making such a big deal out of transgenderism, upsetting what God made to be something beautiful, something that would be procreative. It was God who said, male and female made he them. And he put certain rules around it. And you know what? According to the scripture, sex is only allowed between married people who have that marriage covenant. And I even, because people live together at the drop of a hat now, and I even hear Christians say, well, everybody's doing it. There ought to be some kind of a hatred for sin. There ought to be some kind of a hatred for the results that it brings in people's lives. So if Christians don't hold up the standard of the Lord when it comes to morality and sex and relationships, who will? Who will? So I hope you'll take some of those things to heart that we bring to you every once in a while, how Satan took something that God made to be beautiful and life-giving and just completely pervert it and let us live the way he said. We are out of time. Join me next time. No higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.